the question is sort of trying to tease out of me whether or not Congress can, so whether or not the president can ignore the Chemical Weapons Convention and use chemical weapons and violate internet in this war, and also whether or not there can be some hot pursuit in the context of self-defense despite congressional.
So what is your view of the limit of the hot pursuit? How far
On the chemical weapons, if we have, well, we don't have chemical weapons in our operational inventory, to the best of my knowledge. We haven't destroyed all the stocks. We haven't destroyed them all. Can Congress take them out of stock? Well, first of all, treaty can be renounced by the president. That's kind of axiomatic constitutional law. I'm not aware of any statutory, but let me put it this way. If Congress try to pass, so forget the treaty part of it. The treaty can be denounced tomorrow. Agree? So let's get. Well, but the president can unilaterally terminate the treaty. I mean, I don't think many folks would disagree with that.
Yeah, but you're bringing in a different question. Let's stick with my fact. The treaty's in effect.
Now, David, you were opposed to people being weaselly.
Okay. All right. Let's assume that you have a domestically binding law that prevents the president from using some force element that otherwise exists. Can he disregard that in a context of combat? The answer is yes, he can. Yes, he can. In fact, again, treaty, irrelevant. But look, under your logic, if Congress passes the law tomorrow saying, we think there's too much collateral damage from using, MLRA, forget the lingo, from using multiple, from using particular types of projectiles, and God knows much of the rest of the world does not like that, or using depleted uranium rounds. We're going to put a law which says cannot use depleted uranium. If you don't like it, get it out of a U.S. force structure by not appropriating funds for its maintenance. As to the hot pursuit stuff, look, this is truly impossible to answer in the abstract. If you have, and there are some interesting analogs in Cambodia, if you have Al-Qaeda outfit that's popping in and out of Syria and attacking U.S. forces in Iraq, of course the president can order U.S. troops to go in and clean it out, both as a matter of international law, even if there was a congressional ban on using. By the way, that was the U.S. position, the executive branch's position on Cambodia. Tell me if you disagree that, despite all the bans about introduction of combat troops and everything, if there was a direct attack originating in U.S. forces from Cambodian territory, you can go in, and that's what justified cleaning out the sanctuaries.
Do you think he could invade Russia if he thought that they were supporting the Iraqis, the Shiites?
No, we're talking about the battlefield, immediate, ongoing attack.
But your theory is boundless. Your theory simply lets the president do whatever he or she wants to do with all of the military might
that
Congress has placed at his disposal.
That is absolutely
without any constraint. Notice what's being said here. Congress cannot place any restriction on anything that's available to the president. The president has the most massive armed forces in the world, and therefore, theoretically, he or she can do anything he or she wants without any congressional, even a resolution of the use of force that's limited would not restrict the president, because under your theory, the president has the power to initiate combat without an authorization.
No.
And to use all of the forces that Congress has put at his disposal,
Chris,
with no restraints.
No,
it's really quite breathtaking.
Some restraints, to be sure. If Congress, under my view, can, for use of appropriations, ban the use of any Bond Amendment type language in a particular country, and that does bind the president, except in the situation that the gentleman mentioned as hypothetical, except in this immediate attack. So if Congress wants to make sure that some neocons did not instigate a war of Iran, they can say no U.S. forces of any kind, ground or whatever, can be used against Iran. And that binds the president 99% of the time, unless we're still in Iraq and somebody runs from across the border and shoots. Very narrow example. As to their other stuff, look, if Congress gives the president, and it has happened in peacetime, formidable military machine, and if a president wants to start a war with another country, believing that he's exercising preemptive self-defense, he can. And if Congress thinks it's crazy, and there's a strong consensus to that, they can impeach the president. There's also a way of removing the president. The majority of the cabinet thinks that he or she is physically unfit or mentally disabled. So look, Constitution did not mean to make things easy for the politicians, either in the executive branch or in Congress. If you are willing to pay the political price and you think that the other branch is doing something that is absolutely crazy, you can stop it. You just have to do it in certain very dramatic ways.
I'm actually concerned about saving American lives without having to impeach the president. It's just, the structure of the Constitution that you have advanced just is stunning to me, that the idea could be that once forces are made available, the president, who might after all be wrong about a decision that he or she made, cannot be constrained by the other branch of government that's elected by the American people.
Can be constrained, but only in certain ways, not in a multitude of ways.
Well, you say certain ways, but then we talk about them, and the ways you say just, you said a moment ago you couldn't, it would be micromanaging to say the president can't use armor. Or it would be micromanaging to say the president can't use chemical weapons if they're in the arsenal. So you say there's restraint, but then when pressed, I don't think there is restraint under your theory except turning off the spigot entirely.
Chris, the
We're
problem.
going to have to stop there. We're past our time, and I think the views are fairly well understood now. But I want to thank the three of you for really an excellent discussion, and I'm sure.
Problem, frankly, that under your view, and
And thank you all for coming.
President,